different things. I zeroed in on sports talk because I used to find myself, and I still do, being so mad at the radio dial and what I would hear, but not about right or wrong. It's not about, is this guy a good player? Is this guy a good coach? Because that stuff is subjective. That's your opinion, my opinion, his opinion. That's the fun part of what we do. But I would just listen to how improperly programmed it was, the stuff that they force-fed people, listening to them force their agendas onto people in their little slick ways, and just the way they would treat people. I listened to so many fans in this time. I mean, it got to where I can't listen to other sports. I cannot listen to local sports talk because I end up getting myself angry. Not because I disagree with the content, although I do sometimes, but because I disagree with the way they go about it, the way they treat the people that they listen to. If you agree with me, you're the greatest listener our radio station has ever had. If you disagree with me, you're an idiot that's never watched anything in your life and you don't know nothing. And we're going to, and I can't stand that, man. It drives me crazy. But what I'm saying is that, as much as loving sports talk, that was what made me want to do this, the sports talk, and make it different, and talk about the Gladiators and the Monsters and the Vikings and the high schools and the Browns and the Indians and the Cavs and all of that. It's what made me want to do that, because I said, man, I hate what the fans are subjected to. And whatever you think of our audience and the mainstream audience, there's not as much separation as people think, but there is some. I will say that the majority of people that listen to us don't listen to anybody else because they kind of get frustrated the same way. But the ones that do listen to both say, hey, man, I really like the way you go about doing things. You hit on all the things that nobody else does. And that's part of what I mean. Look, there's 5 days in a week. All of us that do daily sports talk, you got 5 days in a week. So I get it. Even on Monday, if the Browns stunk over the weekend and we're on it and we're still hot about it, I get it. We go off on Monday and then we trail it into Tuesday. But, you don't have to dwell on that, because the Indians are, I didn't even know they were, hey, they are. And, did you know the Cavs are doing this? But people stay zeroed in, and the radio stations know that. They lock in on that. They go, man, everybody hates Brandon Weeden. Let's talk about nothing but Brandon Weeden every day. And so you get one show that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning and they spend 4 hours talking about Brandon Weeden. Then they pass it off to the next show and they start all over again and they have the same conversation for 4 hours, but it's different people. Then they pass the baton to the next guy who spends the next 5 hours beating the same topic into the ground. And it's what they get. And it's not just Cleveland. I'm sure it's everywhere, but it's very pronounced here in Cleveland. And so a lot of that is the basis of why this show turned out the way it did, because it was an attempt to be just completely alternative from what everybody else is doing.
And the good thing about that is you're in touch with reality and you're in touch with your listeners, which is important. That's why we dig all the social media stuff, because you and I think alike about that. But let's go back 30 years to when this stuff didn't exist. And that's when I was breaking into the business, and coaching and teaching at the same time, as well as doing this. And, you turn on New York sports radio in the mid-1980s, and all you hear are people blasting Phil Simms and the Giants. And what happened? He only got you to 2 Super Bowls.
Exactly. Winning championships, And I get that part of it. Part of that is it's attempt. It's intentional. It's the programming. It's to engage. Combative programming engages people to call in and make opposite phone calls and that kind of stuff. Like, I get that part of it too, but there's a line and you can go over that, and it's lazy. It's lowest common denominator, Like, I get it if that's what we're talking about. But you know what I'm saying? When you get into the 16th hour of the day, it really, and I listen to Cleveland sports talk from time to time, when I can take it. And it's the same. It's that breakdown of the 4-hour blocks. And I'm telling you, Bill, it's like you and I will talk about something for 4 hours, and then two different people will talk about. It's like, let's just hear different people talk about the same thing all day long. Let's mix in some phone calls, and then let's talk about it some more. That stuff. It's lowest common denominator to me. And I know some people think it's easy. Well, let's find the one thing that the most people like. But I don't understand. I get that as a radio programmer, but I don't understand the whole, just the beat down of the negativeness. Like I said, I get it. Even you like football more than baseball. If you're a listener, I get it. Some people do. Some people like basketball more than football, or more than baseball more than basketball. I'm not telling you to change your sport. So when I say, okay, so the Browns had a bad week, so you know what? We're going to talk about the Browns on Monday. We're still going to talk about them on Tuesday, but we're going to focus more on the Indians because they're in the middle of a playoff chase. I'm not telling you to go watch every single baseball game, but I am showing you, hey, there are other things going on, and we're going to talk about them so that we can not drive ourselves nuts. I'm not trying to drive myself crazy either. I'm trying to be conducive to living to fight another day, so we can, because otherwise, by the end of the football season, I don't want to see another football game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that'll change when you have 2 or 3 winning seasons in a row. You'll be glad to wake up Sunday morning and say, what's going to happen now? But that takes time to build that team. And, a lot of fans do understand that. And I've said it for a long time that there were 3 sports teams in the NFL that have the most knowledgeable fans. The Cleveland Brown fans, the Green Bay Packer fans, and the New York Giants fans. Those are the most knowledgeable fans in all of football. They understand that you have to build a team through the draft and not through free agents and not through big names. And, I can understand when people rail against what they see going on and what they listen to on quote-unquote mainstream media.
Right. And again, you got to separate the difference, because I'm not talking about railing against the bad, because that's my job. I get to do that every day. Like, there's a difference between that and just being inundated in miserableness. There's a difference between the two, And that's the point.
Yeah,
like I said,
right.
I go, hey, you know what? We're choosing to focus today more on the Indians and the Cavs. We'll talk some Browns, but you know what? There's some other stuff going on. Hey, tomorrow, this guy's on, and Dr. Football's with us, and we're going to talk some football tomorrow. But today, that's what I'm saying is it's just like life at home. When things drive you crazy, when you're frustrated, you and the spouse are fighting. What do? You get out of the house for a few hours. You go focus on something else. Then you circle back around, and all of a sudden, everybody's feeling better because you got out of the situation for a little bit. Same thing here. Instead of living in the situation 24 hours a day for 4.5 straight months, to where at the end of it, you're just miserable. Anytime somebody talks football with you, you're just that guy that goes, man, that sucks, everything sucks. And people are like, man, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Never mind. How's your kids? Because I don't want to talk about football anymore. That's what I'm saying. Don't be that guy.
Right. I have a good friend who he happens to be my pest control guy, among other things. But he was here yesterday to do a treatment, and he's a big Chiefs fan, and that's all he was talking about was how terrible they are. And I said, "Whoa, relax! It's only the 3rd week of the preseason." And he's like, "Yeah, if I could get out there myself, I'd do it. They need a better quarterback than what they got." And I'm like, "You're not getting Jim." I said, "Jim, you're 50 years old. You're not getting out there. Neither am I." So
I'm with you, Bill. You know what? Let's talk a little bit of football here. We just ended up all over the place, but it's all good, man. The Browns. You know what? Former Brown. Before we get into the Browns, I don't know if you have any more details, but I just thought the Dimitri Patterson story, he played for the Browns a few years ago, kind of interesting because the details haven't come out yet, but apparently the cat shows up for practice, for the pregame, for the walkthrough, for everything the other day before the preseason game, then just disappears before the game, and nobody knows where he went. Nobody knows what happened to him. He goes AWOL. Then he, I guess, shows up the next day, and the team's like, "Oh, good, man. We're glad he's okay. We thought something happened." And then now they're like, well, we talked to him, and now we're really not happy with what happened, but we can't tell you what it was. But and so now there's this like, how do you just disappear before the game? You're there for the walkthrough, you just disappear, and then you show up the next day like, hey, why is everybody mad? I don't understand what the big deal is. Like, what is going on with Dimitri Patterson? Do you know what the story is yet?
No, I only know what you know, and what's really funny about it is it's not the first time this has happened in the NFL. There were a lot of guys that just succumbed to the pressure, and bigger games than this. I mean, a couple of guys did it before a Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I know that happened with. That happened with a couple of guys. It happened with the guy from the Bengals a bunch of years ago. It happened with gentleman from the Raiders not too long ago when the last time they were in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Guys get frustrated and they zone out and they realize that they can't do what people expect them to do, or they feel that they're not confident enough in their skills to do what they're being paid to do. And they wind up, taking the Staten Island Ferry for a couple of hours.
No, and I understand all that. I guess what really became the mystery to me is kind of the way it's breaking down afterwards, because he shows up and is just like, hey, he doesn't seem to understand what the problem was, I think. And then, he came back and explained the way the general manager, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I read it. He's like, we were willing to sit down. We wanted to hear what happened. And then after he told us what happened, now we're scratching our heads going, wait a minute, what? So I think that's the part that I'm like, okay, well, what was the exact reason that you gave him? And then what is your reasoning to not think it's a big deal? Like, well, you know what, just, we were getting dressed up and I had some stuff to do, coach, and I had to go take care of business, and now I'm back. Like, it just seems, like, I don't know, but hey, whatever it is, I just thought it was interesting. You're there all the way up. Imagine the team too. Like, you're in the locker room and it's like you're counting bunks at camp. You're going 52, 53, 54. Hey, where's Patterson at? Patterson missing. Has anybody seen him? He got off the bus. Where did he go?
Right.
And he just said, you know what? I don't feel it. I'm not playing today, coach. I'm gonna go home. And then he came back the next day like, hey, everybody, how'd the game go? Oh, well, where was I? Oh, that's cool. Don't worry about it, man. I'm good, man. And then, so, anyways, but thought that was an interesting story there, too. Speaking of guys coming back, disappearing, coming back, what are your thoughts? Richie Incognito, all the stuff that came up with him last year. He's been cleared to return to the NFL here. Do you think it was... Do you think it's how do you see the next chapter of Richie Incognito going? I know several teams interested in him, but he's been cleared to come back. Do you think it was too quick? Do you think it was not long or not fast enough? And where do you think he ends up?
No, I think this was just about the right time for him to get everything cleared up and sorted out. I don't know if he'll ever have everything personally sorted out in his mind, but at this point, where it's at is that obviously it was not all his fault. He was, a victim of circumstances. The coaches told him to do something, or at least one of the coaches told him to do something, and he just kind of got a little bit overzealous in doing it. And I'm not certainly defending him in the least. I'm just saying that things obviously got out of hand, and a coach should have stepped in and used proper judgment in the first place instead of telling him to ride this guy. Okay, and that's really what happened. He's doing a coach's job by riding the kid, and he shouldn't have been anywhere near it involved at all. That's one thing. As far as no less than 5 teams being interested in him, I think that 3 of those teams that are interested in him will be glad to get him if they don't have to renegotiate a contract with him. That's going to be a big sticking point. One of those teams, don't be surprised if one of those teams interested in him is the New York Jets, because they need some help on the line. There are about 6 or 7 teams that need some help on the offensive line, including the Jets and the Giants right now. If you're looking at it strictly from a business transaction, he could be in any number of teams' uniforms after this weekend.
Be interesting. I know a lot of the talk is about Tampa Bay and Lovie Smith being interested in him. I don't know. A lot of people seem to think that could be a place that he ends up. I guess, Lovie Smith would be an interesting person to kind of guide him. I'm curious what the testing. I know I saw Roger Goodell say they had to go through all kinds of psychological evaluations. They had to pass some tests to be able to play again through some different professionals. Curious what that consists of for a bullying scandal. Like, did you have to go sit in front of the psychologist and say, no, from now on, I would go to human resources and I would try to talk it out with the guy and then I would take him to lunch and then see, I don't know, like what kind of story do you have to give them to make them go, yeah, he